Yay. First of all, before we get started, would someone mind giving us a disclaimer?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay. Don't forget that everything that we're talking about here is for general information purposes. So the application of this general information may apply to you and it may not. And that's where you work with your professionals to find out, is this right for me?
Wonderful. Okay. And in case you missed this, guys, we are talking about type 2 and the kidneys today. And so Cheryl and I were just chatting even before the webinar started. We both, we kind of want to learn a little bit more about the kidneys. What is their involvement? How does type 2 affect the kidneys? Talk to us about dialysis. Teach us all of the things, oh wise one.
Kidney stones.
We want to learn. We want to learn more about it. So
And
we
what
were going to
happens?
Google it, but we thought we'd ask you. So I'm just kidding.
And if you're in a foreign country and you wake up and one of your kidneys is gone, what do you do?
You thank
Dr.
your lucky
Saunders.
stars you have another kidney.
True.
I see Chris Bornman from Indiana. I think, is that who he is? Hello
Yeah.
to you. Yeah.
Yay.
Hi, Chris. Okay, so the kidneys are the filters of the body, but they're filters in a different way than like the spleen. The spleen filters out all of the matter, the material filter, whereas the kidneys are a chemical filter. And so what they do is really amazing. And you know what? If you didn't believe in God before, when you learn about the kidneys, you will, because this is so incredible the way this filter works. It works that kind of like a coffee filter. The blood comes in and all of the cells and proteins and everything stay in, and just the liquid, just the plasma comes out. No, plasma. Yeah, plasma. Serum. I'm sorry, serum. So just the serum comes out and it goes through a tubule. And as it goes through a tubule, it leaks out the fluid that's in there. And then it gets reabsorbed on the other side, but it only reabsorbs the part that your body says, I want that. So all of your amino acids that are in there get reabsorbed. The sugar gets reabsorbed. The salts get reabsorbed, like sodium, potassium, calcium. They all get reabsorbed, all the things your body wants. And what it doesn't want then is what's left over. So the way the filter works is so amazing that you could get toxic on almost anything, and your kidneys will say, "Oh, I don't want that," and so they just get rid of it, and you don't have to. Your body doesn't have to know every possible toxic thing that you could possibly have. It takes what it wants and leaves everything else. So as you're living and making energy and all of that stuff, you're making a whole bunch of toxins. And if your enzymes don't work properly, you can get high toxicity. And one thing, like the organic acids can be toxic. But when it goes through the kidneys say, well, I don't need that. So it doesn't take it up, and it just washes down and goes down out in the urine. So that's how the kidneys function. Now, with diabetes, what happens? Why do people lose their kidneys in diabetes? Well, first, let's look at what's happening in diabetes. The filters are constantly being replenished, and when the filter is not being replenished, when there's a problem with the filter, then what happens is, instead of all the proteins and cells staying in the blood and letting just the serum out, it's like your coffee filter's had a whole bunch of holes poked in it. Like somebody came at night while you were sleeping. See Joe there with his coffee?
Coffee.
So somebody comes with at night and takes your filters and pokes a bunch of pinholes in them. And so then you get up, you don't think anything about it, and you put your little coffee filter in. You put in your coffee and make your coffee, and then there's all this sediment in the bottom, and you're drinking mud, and you're going, "What the heck? Why is my coffee like mud?" And it's because there's holes in the filter. Well, that's exactly what happens in diabetes. The filter gets a bunch of holes in it, and so the proteins are leaking out, and that's what they usually measure. So if your doctor said, "Oh, you have protein in your urine," that's a bad sign. That means your filters have holes in them. They're not being replenished fast enough. And then if that happens, the kidneys don't reabsorb that, so you lose it, and you're actually losing a lot of good stuff now, stuff that you would normally want to keep. You're losing in your urine because the kidneys aren't working. And after a while, they will sclerose, which means they get like scar tissue, and then they don't work at all. So then you have fewer filters, and then you can't filter out the organic acids anymore. And then that's why people go on dialysis. So in order to prevent the sclerosis, you have to prevent the damage. And in order to prevent the damage, you have to have good energy getting to your kidneys. So remember, we talked about the brain. For those of you who were here when we talked about the brain has a blood-brain barrier, right? And sugar cannot get through that blood-brain barrier. So you have to have a glucose transport protein to pull the sugar from the blood into the brain. And people get Alzheimer's disease or dementia from diabetes because they're not getting sugar into their brain, and their brain is shrinking down from not enough energy. Makes their blood pressure go up and all that thing. Well, guess what? The kidneys are in the same position. The kidneys need a constant supply of sugar in order to regenerate and regenerate the filters so that they have good filtration systems. And that has to be a constant supply of sugar. And guess what? They also have a barrier, a membrane, and the sugar cannot get across that membrane. And so as you become more insulin resistant, then you get less sugar going across the membrane, and then the cells can't regenerate like they used to. And when they don't regenerate, they make holes, and then they'll develop scar tissue because they don't have any cells. So in order to protect your kidneys, guess what? Your kidney cells need more sugar, more sugar, not less, just like your brain. The problem then is, how do you get the sugar from, you have all this sugar in the blood, a ton of it, and none in the cell. How do you get it across there? Well, you have to have these glucose transport proteins, but in order to get the glucose transport proteins to increase, you have to lower your blood sugar. And so it's kind of a paradox, right? You think about, wait, I need more sugar, but I'm supposed to lower my sugar? Yes, because when you lower your sugar, you make more of the glucose transport protein so that the sugar can get through the membrane and into the cell where it's supposed to be. And that works both for the brain and for the kidneys. So the way to do that is we have a program called the Diabetes Solution Kit. And part of the solution is, to begin with, you eat very little sugar, very little, like 20 grams of carbohydrates a day. And in the process of doing that, your blood sugar is coming down, down, down. Why? Because you're using up all the sugar. You're going to use up the sugar that's stored in your cells. And after that, it's going to go, oh, I need more sugar, and start pulling it out of the blood. So then the blood sugar is going to start dropping down. And as the blood sugar drops down, then that membrane that protects the kidneys is going to say, hey, we don't have any sugar on this side. We need more glucose transport protein. So then the glucose transport proteins increase, and then you get more sugar into your kidney cells, and they start regenerating and fixing all of the filters in your kidneys. If your kidneys are sclerosed, and that means they're like scarred down. They probably don't come back. I have tried this on many people with kidney failure from diabetes, and I have not yet had anybody get significant kidney function back. I've had several people get a little bit of kidney function back, but that's probably because the filters weren't working, but they weren't sclerosed yet. They weren't scarred. Once you have scar tissue, I don't think that you could get the filters back again. So it's very important that you take care of this like right up front. This is the most important thing to handle because you're not going to get it back. You know, in other words, once they say, your kidneys are failing, then you might be able to slow that process down or stop it. But you're not going to go backwards and say, I got all my kidneys functioning again. So doing this program is very important because many people, before they even have high blood sugar, before their blood sugars are in the 200s and 300s, they're barely up a little bit, in the 150s and that. And the doctor says, no big deal. They can already have the damage done to their glomeruli, which is the filter in the kidneys. The damage could already be done or be happening during that process, because it's not about how high your blood sugar is. It's about how many glucose transport proteins you have to get sugar into the cells so that they can repair. Does that make sense?
Do both kidneys typically start to sclerose at the same time?
Yeah. In this kind of a case, yes. They generally, because of the problem of the sugar getting into the cells, it's happening all over the body. But most cells are not really sensitive to it. But the brain, the heart, the kidneys are especially sensitive to that.
So sclerosis, I thought of, multiple sclerosis. Is that a condition where like there's scarring or hardening of tissues all over, or?
Yes.
What is?
Yes, that's exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Sclerosis is that hardening or scarring. Yeah. And it can happen all over. Multiple sclerosis means it happens in, MS is primarily from the brain. They do an MRI scan of the brain. They see they're white matter lesions in the brain. Yeah. Multiple, many of them.
Interesting. Yeah. Could go on about that, but that's maybe a topic for a different day.
Yeah, multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
So the kidneys are so important as a filter. People are on dialysis when they lose their kidneys, and the number one reason for dialysis is diabetes type 2. But it doesn't happen to everybody. That's what's really interesting. It's just dependent on whether you make the glucose transport proteins to get the sugar into your cells and keep your kidneys functioning well. So not everybody has that issue.
And how do kidney stones form then? And I know they're not solely a diabetic problem, but
Yeah.
how does that play into all this?
Oh, good thought. Okay. Stones are made from salts that are coming out. That's calcium salts that are coming out in your kidneys because you have too much calcium in your blood. So the calcium comes out in the kidneys, and you also have something called oxalic acid. That's the majority of stones are caused by that. Sometimes it's a different organic acid called uric acid. But either way, what happens is they come together and they form crystals. And then they form a crystal, and they start with just a little teeny, one molecule crystal. And then that allows another one to be added on, another one. And over time, then these crystals start growing, and essentially you're just growing crystals in your kidneys. So in order to prevent that, there's some some interesting studies that have been done on kidney stones and how they're formed. It's not just totally a matter of too much calcium, but some people have like a tumor in their parathyroid gland that causes them to take calcium out of their bones and keep the calcium levels always high. So the kidney's saying, oh, that's a lot of calcium. I don't need that much. It gets rid of the extra calcium. That's controlled by vitamin D. So if they have like a tumor, they got to get rid of the tumor. You just have to have that removed. So the parathyroid gland is right here in the neck. Once they get rid of the tumor, then the calcium should come down to normal and they shouldn't be excreting so much calcium anymore. Another important thing to have is vitamin K. You get vitamin K from green vegetables, and the vitamin K helps you to take the calcium out of your blood and put it into your bones to keep that regulated really well. So if you take vitamin D to absorb the calcium from your intestines and then vitamin K to get it into your bones, then your kidney isn't excreting a whole bunch of it and you don't have that extra. The other part is oxalic acid. Oxalates are found in a lot of foods and like even kale. Some of the same vegetables that have vitamin K also have oxalic acid or oxalates that bind the calcium and start forming the stones. If you have like calcium, magnesium, or minerals with your food, if you're eating foods that are high in minerals, then they bind to the oxalates in your intestines and you never absorb them. So then you don't get kidney stones. So eating foods that are high in minerals. So if you're eating foods that are like processed, like white flour, for example, doesn't have any magnesium in it, but whole wheat flour or whole grain has a lot of magnesium in it. So magnesium is one of the things that's very commonly left out of food when it's processed, when they take the fiber out of it. So then you retain the oxalates, but you don't have any minerals to bind to it. So you absorb it, and then your kidney just has to excrete it, and then it starts precipitating in the kidneys. Is that clear as mud?
That's good. No, I like the chemistry about it all because that makes sense. It helps you process it, and I hopefully for other patient or customers too as well.
Yeah. So one way to avoid that is take magnesium, or eat foods that are high in minerals and mineral content, and those kinds of foods will prevent the oxalic acid from being absorbed in the first place. And then having enough vitamin D and vitamin K to get your calcium into your bones instead of taking it out of the bones. And those have been proven ways to prevent kidney stones.
And doesn't Cinachroma have vitamin K in it?
Yes, has
And
vitamin D and
D?
vitamin K.
So
Yeah.
taking Cinachroma can also help your kidneys.
Correct.
This is good. Very good. The common theme that I think is often in a lot of these webinars that we do is that what you're putting in your mouth makes a big difference for nearly every, is it safe to say nearly every illness? And so I love that Dr. Saunders really focuses on food. Supplements are there to support, but often he just really, really recommends certain dietary changes. And so that is where the Diabetes Solution Kit comes in handy. And, we have a lot of people on our team who, they don't have type 2, but they know the value in following the plan and sticking to phase 1 to, kind of reset their body. And then they go to phase 2. And if you're not familiar with the Diabetes Solution Kit, you can find that at bartonwebinar.com. The things that are recommended in that are what Dr. Saunders recommends to his patients that pay a lot of money to go to his office. So it's a very inexpensive way to get. I know. Sorry. I thought he wasn't listening. Sorry.
I may be cheap, but I'm not free.
Right. So check that out if you have not done that already. I know many people ask questions about what foods they should be eating, and it is all in that. Okay. So bartonwebinar.com. It's under $20 for the digital version. And so it's a really good, good, inexpensive way to make a big impact on your health. So, all right, there's my little pitch there. I don't even work in sales. So, all right.
I have a quick question. Well, someone asked, Mark Weissner asked, you mentioned type 2 is a major cause of kidney failures because of sugar, but what about type 1? You want to just take a few minutes to address type 1?
Okay. Type 1, because there are so few people with type 1 compared to type 2, that yes, type 1 also is a cause of kidney failure. And part of that is the same issue of having the high blood sugar and decreasing the amount of glucose transport protein. So sugar can't get into the kidney cells and allow them to reproduce and remake those glomeruli, the filters. So type 1 does the same thing. But the reason I mentioned type 2 is the highest because there's a lot of people in the world, 100 million people in the United States with either prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, whereas there's only in terms of several thousand people with type 1 diabetes. So it's very, very relatively few people in comparison.
All right, let's go ahead and start getting to some more of these questions. Let's see, we have some in the chat, some in the Q&A. Feel free to post them in the Q&A. I can keep track of them a little bit better there, but I'm going to start here. Let's see. Kathy says, 2 questions. I take Nervala twice a day and my feet are getting better, but now my hands are starting to go numb. Also, my legs have varicose veins and they throb. Anything I can do for them? Walking does help some. I'm 52, take Synachroma and turmeric. Also take glipizide, 10 milligrams. My C-peptide is 3.7, and I'm resisting taking insulin from the doctor. My A1C is 9.4, down from 12.4 in April. Weight is 186, down from 245. Awesome. You are a blessing from God. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Oh, wow. You're doing great. Okay. So your pancreas makes plenty of insulin. Your C-peptide level of 3 indicates that you have a lot of insulin being made by your pancreas. The hemoglobin A1C down to 9 from 12. That's excellent. That is so good. It just makes me happy when people do it and it works. Yes. Now, your question of the neuropathy, the best I can say is hang in there, because what happens is not that it gets worse before it gets better, but if you've ever had the experience of sleeping on your arm at night and you wake up in the morning and it's totally numb and you're just like, and it's so miserable. But then as it starts coming back, you start getting the tingling sensations. You get different sensations as the nerves wake up. And so very often, like, the hands will start as the nerves wake up, but it's a different reason. It's circulation. And so the circulation is often decreased. And that's okay, because there's a lot of electrolyte changes. There's a lot of changes going on in the functioning of your body. So that includes the sympathetic nervous system that controls the blood flow. So usually the hands are getting numb because of lack of circulation, which usually they'll get cold too. And so, and that cold, and don't just continue what you're doing and don't worry too much about that. That's very common. The fact that your feet, the nerves are coming back to your feet, that indicates that you're doing the right thing, that this is excellent. It takes a long time for nerves to wake up when they've been asleep for a long time.
Any thoughts on the varicose veins and the throbbing?
Yeah, the varicose veins and the throbbing. Yeah, okay. So varicose veins are a difficult thing to deal with because the veins have valves in them, and the valves let the blood go up, but they stop it from going down. So blood can go up but not down. And that's what allows the circulation, because there's no heart in your feet pumping blood back up to your heart, right? And so all they have is a very low pressure. And as you move around, the blood kind of moves in the veins, and your muscles kind of massage them and they go up. So varicose veins means those veins have enlarged so much that the valves don't work anymore. And so now you have these enlarged veins, first of all, and second of all, they don't work. So there's more pressure in there and they get leaky, and then you get fluid, and then you get this swelling, edema of your legs. And it's kind of annoying, but once those veins are enlarged, it's very hard to deal with. So sometimes people have surgery to remove all the outside veins, because the ones inside, the veins inside between the muscles, will get massaged by the muscles and push things up, and they generally don't get overly enlarged. Sometimes, if it's one of the big valves in the femoral artery, that our femoral vein, then really all you have left at that point is those tight stockings. We used to call them granny stockings, but now they have cool ones with different colors, and but those really tight compression stockings to keep pressure down below and to give some push to the blood as it to get it up and keep the fluid out of the tissues. There are a couple of supplements that are very useful for this. One is called horse chestnut seed extract. Horse chestnut has bioflavonoids in it that help the veins to work better, that gives more tension to the veins. And then the other one is pycnogenol. Pycnogenol has also been shown in studies to help the circulation, the venous circulation.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Cinechroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Cinechroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Cinechroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Cinechroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients: the perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Cinechroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Cinechroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Cinechroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
Okay, good information. You know what? We may need to add this to our Q&A on bartonwebinar.com. We cover probably our top 10 most common questions there. But one of the questions that's been coming up a lot is questions about fruit. Which fruits are okay? Is fruit okay? This question specifically is about watermelon and grapes.
Oh, watermelon. I love watermelon as long as it's a good one. But here's the problem with watermelon. It has a very high glycemic index, which means it shoots the blood sugar up very rapidly, because it really doesn't have any fiber in it. It's got a very tiny amount of fiber. It's like drinking like orange juice or juice. It's like pure sugar, like sugar water kind of thing. So watermelon is one of those things that if you're on phase 1, definitely don't have watermelon. If you're on phase 2, try it. See how well you tolerate it. Now, there are people who are doing the other way. They're doing the very low fat diet where they have no fat. They tolerate watermelon just fine because they don't have any insulin resistance because they're not eating any fat. So after phase 1, and if you go on the no fat diet, you probably tolerate fruit, watermelon. But generally, if you're on the other end, if you're eating more avoiding carbohydrates, then the fruits and watermelon and mangoes and grapes. Grapes are pretty high in sugar. They're little bags of sugar is what the grapes are. They're great, but it's not something that's going to be part of your regular diet.
And just a reminder again, when you're on phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit, the goal is to stay under 20 carbs. Those are net carbs. Okay. So for example, I just did a quick Google search. So this could vary a little bit, but in 1 cup of diced watermelon, there are 11 grams of carbs. So that doesn't mean that you can't have watermelon, but that's going to be the majority of your carbs for the day. So the fun part about doing these, restricting your carbs is you still can eat things that you want to eat, but you need to monitor what you're eating and see what happens, right? I mean, is that okay to say that? So if you want half of your carbs per day to be watermelon, then try it. See how that goes. Okay.
And if you go like 11:58 to eat at night, and then you can go past midnight, then it's 20 plus 20, 40 grams. But you just can't the rest of the day.
Joe's always got an angle.
Yeah.
We'll edit that part out later. And you will not find that in the diabetes solution kit, just so you know.
No.
And let's see, another disclaimer. Sometimes Joe has crazy ideas. Kind of makes sense, but that's just who he is.
Well, yeah. I just got to say, isn't this place beautiful?
Oh my goodness.
Today, but I am at, like, this guy right here is the monk right under my thumb. It's backwards. That's the monk that's climbing Camelback Mountain. Like, it just doesn't get any better than this. And it's 73 degrees.
Nice.
7 degrees. Yeah, it's beautiful. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary. My wife is in the other room avoiding me, but, she still likes me.
No.
I think.
After 25 years, she still likes you?
She does most of the time.
I thought it took 25 years to like you.
Yeah. Well, so what's funny, okay, that's all right. Short little sidebar. So I posted on Facebook pictures, my wife still likes me. And then she said, her comment was, "You're right." And that's what took her 25 years to say that I was. A while. Finally got something right.
Yeah, see, I haven't been married that long, so my wife never said that.
Right. You got a ways to go yet. All right. Yes. But I agree. I get a little squirrely sometimes, but
it's good.
Chris Borman makes me appreciates the humor, and I appreciate Chris telling me that, keeping me, feeling important. But you guys are all, the experts on all this stuff. So, okay, back to you guys.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Scott says, I'm taking a drug called Farxiga, which allows you to pee out your excess sugar in your blood. If you have type 2 diabetes, you would think your body would want to do this naturally. Would you please explain why, if you have type 2 diabetes, your body wouldn't want to pee out your excess sugar naturally?
Part of it is that, well, why wouldn't want to? Well, generally, when the blood sugar gets above 200, most people, the kidneys will spill over the extra because sugar is so important. This glucose is like everything, like your brain has to have it. If you get rid of the glucose, you'll die just as fast as if you get rid of your oxygen. That's how important it is. This is really, really important. So the kidneys, all they're thinking is, I don't know if they think, but whatever they're thinking, they're saying this chemical right here, glucose, is really important. I need to hold on to all of that and keep it because the brain's going to need it, the heart's going to need it, and for heaven's sakes, my own kidney needs it. So, the system is set up to hold on to glucose because that's what keeps us going. That's our fuel. It's like if you have a little extra gas, are you going to just dump it on the side of the road? And you're probably going to save it and store it in a little container or something. You're not going to You're not going to just dump it on the side of the road and then drive away with half a tank of gas. You want to use all that gas in your car, right? That's kind of the way the kidneys look at sugar. So yeah, the kidneys don't want to get rid of sugar, but usually when it gets over 200, 250, it'll start spilling sugar into the urine. The Farxiga, what it does is it makes that spill more. It doesn't allow the kidneys to absorb it. It blocks the reabsorption of sugar in the kidneys so that you spill more out.
Okay,
Leslie, can I ask a question? So this guy, Andy, says, what kidney test do you suggest should be done on a regular basis to gauge kidney strength? But my question alongside is there something that perhaps someone might look for because not everyone's going to go to the doctor, unfortunately can't afford it. Are there any other symptoms that someone might look for if they have kidney problems in their diet?
No. You know what? Once you get symptoms like swelling up from kidney problems, then at that point it's kind of too late. You've already scarred off your glomeruli, the filters. So it's kind of important to go and get a test to see. And there's two things primarily that they'll be looking for. One is protein in the urine. If you have excess protein in your urine, that means your filters are not filtering. They have too many holes poked in them. And the other thing is called the glomerular filtration rate, which everybody who has the metabolic panel is going to have that, called the GFR. And that GFR should be over 60, ideally, depending on your age, over 70. And if it's like borderline, right at 60 or in the 50s or 60, that means you're not going to notice anything, but you already have dysfunctioning kidneys. So that's where it becomes like an emergency. You really have to take care of this now. Good question.
These are good questions. Okay, Meg is asking, what role does Jardiance play in this? Is the lack of sugar getting into the kidneys reflecting as severe fatigue? And what else? And what lab tests reflect the situation best? Is it?
Wow. Good question.
Andy's gone.
She will not answer.
Good question. See ya.
That's how good the question
You
was.
stumped the doctor, Meg. I knew the day would come.
Finally.
Actually, Meg did. She okay. So because I don't know like Jardiance specifically, how that affects the sugar getting into the kidneys, because one of the things it does is increases insulin, which may affect your kidneys. What was the second part of the question?
What lab tests reflect the situation best? Creatinine.
Yeah, the lab test would get, again, that GFR, glomerular filtration rate. And that gives an idea of how well the kidneys are filtering out and how many filters you have. So the lower that number is, the fewer filters you have. So the more filters have been scarred down and lost. So that would be the best way to do it, as far as testing for the kidneys goes. But it's that other question, that how does Jardiance affect the kidneys? I'm not sure specifically or of any of the medications. So, for example, someone asked about glimepiride, and that is something that tricks the kidneys or the pancreas into making more insulin than it would normally make. And then does that increased insulin have an effect on the kidneys? And I can't say, I don't know. There's so many factors involved in this, of the incretins and insulin and glucagon, and there's a lot of hormones involved in this. And why some people, before they even get really high blood sugar, already have kidney damage, We don't know. I couldn't say.
Okay. Let's see. Chanda says, I just started the program and I've stopped my medicine using the Synachroma. My sugar was 145 this morning. I took one Synachroma before bed. Should I be taking my metformin?
Well, I can't say specifically whether you should be taking metformin, but let me give it the general idea here. There's a purpose for metformin, and the purpose is to help your body to be more sensitive to the insulin, to start using fat for energy instead of sugar for energy is the primary way it works. If you're on phase 1 of the program, and if you're taking Synachroma and you find you don't need that, then at some point we want the medications to become superfluous. That's what your program's all about. So as to whether you need it or not, that's determined between you and your doctor, to say, look, your hemoglobin A1C is down below 7 now, and you're doing really well. Maybe you don't need that medication anymore. It's not by the numbers specifically, but when you're doing a lot better and your blood sugars are in the more normal range, you may not want to take that medication anymore because you don't want to get too low.
There is a customer service type question, Cheryl, from Deb. Can I just have you look at that one? Just wondering about using the coupon code. Let's see here. We did this one. Scott is wondering, how much magnesium should you take every day?
You should get your magnesium from food. So the foods that have magnesium include things that are green. So the darker the green, the more the magnesium. So, and this is miraculous. Again, this is going to make you believe in God, because the exact same molecule that makes our blood red is called hemoglobin, right? And hemoglobin is this large protein molecule that has one iron molecule in it, right? And that one iron molecule allows it to hold on to oxygen, to bring oxygen in and hold on to oxygen, right? So that's our red blood, our red blood cells. The chlorophyll molecule is exactly the same protein molecule, has a magnesium in it. And that magnesium allows it to use carbon dioxide so that the plant can use the carbon and make sugars and all of its structure and everything. That magnesium in there is the same as the iron in our blood. So if it's darker green, it's more magnesium. If it's really light green, like iceberg lettuce is almost white with a little bit of green, it's got a little bit of magnesium in it. But something like kale that's super dark has a lot of magnesium in it. So dark green vegetables, anything that is a seed, like grains, whole grains, quinoa, nuts, seeds, they all contain magnesium in them as well. So those are the best ways to get magnesium. If you eat beans a lot, you're probably getting good source of magnesium. So how much should you supplement? Well, on the average, most people around 400 milligrams a day is adequate, but get it from your food.
Okay, this is good.
What about our spray? Got a plug easy release magnesium?
Yeah, that's one way. You know, that's a good way to get magnesium, is to put it on your skin. Use the spray.
Yeah, because your body absorbs what it needs, right? And doesn't absorb too much.
Yeah, part of it. Right.
Good. I was going to say, we might have to discontinue that product all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on. Favorite one.
We use a lot of magnesium here, other than in our foods. So, all right. Stacy is on day 1 of the program. She said this information is so informative. Thank you. We are so excited that you're starting, Stacy. Keep us updated on your results, how things are going, struggles. We want to hear it all. And then she says, any webinar, actually, I don't know if Stacy's a male or female. So any webinar soon on the liver. That's a great idea. So we might have to do that. Let's see. I was going to go to, let's see, Stoico. Hey, welcome back. Thank you, Dr. Saunders, for your help. Tried to follow your advice for the diet. Is continuous glucose monitors a useful tool for adjusting the diet, or is it better to have a regular monitor and do the measurement after fasting?
Well, I love numbers. So if I had diabetes, if I had high blood sugars and I was trying to work a program, I would just love a continuous glucose monitor. I would every minute I'd be scanning. Okay. And I want to see the graph every day of where my blood sugar is, and I want to make sure. Okay, why did it go up? What did I do? And try to keep it low and below the 120. There's the line on the graph. I would just love a continuous glucose monitor, but they're not always easy to get. Not everybody can get one. So if you don't have one, you could test like after meals, and that would help you possibly to understand where your blood sugar is and what makes it go up. And the minimum that you would do is just the morning fasting blood glucose. The morning fasting blood glucose gives you an idea of where your blood sugar is when you're not eating, because by that time your stomach's empty and you're not bringing in sugar from your diet. So then where is your blood sugar? And so that kind of gives you the idea or the concept of your blood, of your normal blood sugar, where it's supposed to be between 70 and 90, and people are often shifted up into the 120s, 150s, or even 200s.
All right. Question from Corey. He's wondering about Niagara XL. Do you take 2 pills every day, or would you take it as needed? What do you recommend?
Yes, you can either take it. You can take 2 pills every day for a while. Remember, it is a supplement. It does have nutrients in it as well. It has zinc and things that your body needs to make testosterone. So a lot of the reason for it is to increase testosterone levels. But it can also be used on an as-needed basis, and I've had people do that. And we used to prescribe yohimbine when I was in residency 30 years ago. And that was on an as-needed basis. So you can still use it on an as-needed basis, but it is a supplement that you can take every day.
Okay.
We got to head out, everybody. So bye.
Okay.
Right, bye,
enjoy
Joe.
your time.
See you all.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Joe.
All right. Let's see. Wonder what this is. Okay. So Meg said the white inside part of the skin next to the red part is edible, and possibly there's fiber in that part to calculate for the net carbs. I'm assuming that's for watermelon. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. And the white inside part isn't very tasty though.
That's true.
Not sweet.
Okay. Should I stop my meds when starting phase 1? No meds. I started yesterday with 2 Cinechroma in the morning and 1 at bedtime. My blood sugar this morning was 145. You know what? This might be the same person that asked that question before.
Oh,
but what do you recommend to everyone when they get started with the diabetes solution kit? They're starting on phase 1. Should they continue with their meds? Okay.
Very good question, because now if you're cutting way back on carbohydrates and you're injecting insulin, at pretty high levels, and you're really resistant, and then you're taking the Cinechroma and you're getting more sensitive to your insulin. So now you have a double whammy. You're decreasing carbs and becoming more insulin sensitive at the same time. You could drop your blood sugar too low pretty easily. And low blood sugar is kind of a bummer, and that's where people get headaches and fatigue, and they get angry easily, irritable, all of that kind of stuff. So you don't have to drop your blood sugar that hard. that fast. But so if you're going on phase 1, be very careful with medications that increase insulin or injections of insulin. So some that increase insulin, someone asked about glimepiride. All of the sulfonylureas, all of those, glimepiride is one, glyburide, glipizide. These are medications that increase the insulin output and can lower the blood sugar too much. So when you're going on this program, be very careful of that. And talk with your doctor and say, gee, I'm doing this program that I'm lowering carbs. Are there any of these medications I should not be taking so I don't get hypoglycemia?
Speaking of hypoglycemia, someone had a question about fasting. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it again. Well, how do you control your blood sugars when you're fasting?
Oh, you don't have to. You're when you're fasting, when you're not eating, that's when everything repairs. That's when the systems that are called homeostasis, that put things back in order, are learning how to put things back in order. So our bodies don't work on homeostasis by having everything the same all the time. They work by feast and famine. You have a whole bunch and then you have none. And then the body figures out in between, oh, that's where I'm supposed to be, and figures out where the optimum level of everything is. So you don't control your blood sugars. It's a training process of your body. So you eat and then you don't eat. And then in between, that's where the body figures out what's going on and what to do.
Okay, question from Samuel. Does white rice, which is boiled, still contain sugar, which spikes blood sugar?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So rice is primarily starch, and the starch, your saliva has an amylase enzyme that converts that starch into sugar before it even gets into your stomach. So it's already being glucose. It's already being made into pure glucose. Yeah.
The body is really amazing.
Amazing. Miraculous.
I homeschool my kids. We were reading about, the different things that were created on different days. And it's just like, there is no way the body was created by accident. There is just no way. Okay. How much vitamin D should you take?
Okay. Excellent question. So I've tested thousands of people for vitamin D levels. And here's what I find. 5,000 units a day gets you at about the lower end of the normal range. 10,000 units gets you somewhere in the middle to upper of the normal range. About 15,000 units a day gets you in the higher end. I've had people on 20,000 to put them around 100, which is the higher end. So that kind of gives you an idea. Out in the sun is a significant portion of your skin. In minutes, you make about 20,000 units. You can make 20,000 units a day just from sunshine. And so I recommend about 10,000 units a day of a supplementation.
Okay, Cheryl, was that cutting out for you a little bit?
Yes, it was. Dr. Saunders, we only got a portion of what you said. We got that you had higher level. Yeah, and then we lost you. Okay,
so the 10,000 units a day of supplementation is about puts people at about the good range of where their blood vitamin D blood levels are about right.
And also there's more information at bartonwebinar.com. We have our frequently asked questions, and I believe we talk about vitamin D on that.
Page the Synachroma has 5,000. So if people are taking it twice a day, that's the upper end. If they're taking it once a day, that's the lower end. Either way, it's okay.
Perfect. Okay, Jacqueline, welcome. This is your first time watching the webinar. And she has a question. I'm taking metformin ER 750 milligrams once daily. A1C is 6.9. What is the diabetes solution kit?
Okay. The diabetes solution kit is the book that tells you how to go through the different phases of reversing this process of diabetes. The amount of metformin that you're taking is really not a significant amount to create change in your body. So, and the hemoglobin A1C of 6.9 is diabetic, and it's not super high. So you would do really well and probably very quickly on the diabetes solution kit be able to reverse that process by decreasing the blood sugar. And then, of course, with your physician's help, you wouldn't need the metformin anymore, and you could do it purely by your diet.
Okay, and I think one more question, Meg, this is a follow-up, I think, to her previous question. Is the lack of sugar getting into the kidneys reflecting as severe fatigue? And what else as symptoms we might see to alert us other than lab tests?
Yeah, okay. So that was, I remember that question. I forgot to address that. Fatigue is so non-specific that there's no way you can use that as this means that, because fatigue happens from an infection or any kind of process of not sleeping at night, too much stress. The fatigue is one of those things that is not specific to diabetes at all. In fact, I've had plenty of people with diabetes who say, "No, I have plenty of energy, no problem at all," and their insulin resistance is off the charts, or really high anyway. So fatigue is not a good symptom to be using. So finding out what the cause of your fatigue is the best way to deal with that. And yes, the medications can cause that, because some of the medications will inhibit your ability to use, like fat, for example, metformin, and can cause fatigue. And that's why metformin can have problems with the liver and the muscles. It can cause muscle breakdown, actually, because you can't get fat to be used in the muscles. So fatigue, finding out your specific reason why you have fatigue is going to be more helpful than anything else, and you can't use that as a cause.
Okay. I have to ask this because we were talking about fasting. Mark is a type 1. If he fasts, his blood sugar will drop into a dangerous range. Should I stop taking any insulin?
Okay. When you're going to fast with type 1, you have to be really careful, and you have to know what you're doing, and you have to work with somebody. So it's not bad to fast when you're type 1, but remember, you don't make insulin. And so you if you're injecting insulin and you're not eating, then you're going to get low blood sugar. So you have to be really careful with that and not be injecting insulin when you're not eating. So if you're fasting, that's when it would be a really good idea to work with somebody and figure out what's the best way to handle that, because you can do it, but you just have to be careful.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Cinechroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Cinechroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Cinechroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Cinechroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Cinechroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Cinechroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Cinechroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
All right. Great questions, you guys. Thank you so much. We will be back here next week, Thursday, same time. Thank you so much, Dr. Saunders and Cheryl.
It goes so fast.
It does go so fast.
Yeah.
It's so good. You
Yeah.
guys are awesome. Thanks again.
All right.
And see all of you next
Bye.
week. Bye.
Bye.